morning, everyone. Can I have everyone come on in? I've never had this much power before. I wish my kids could witness this. So my name is Nita Gear, and I am the Executive Director for the Delta Glebe Counseling Center. We're here this morning to celebrate our 8th breakfast and our 10th anniversary. I can't believe that we've got a history. Gerard is going to help us with commemoration and archiving because we're actually old enough to have an archive. I was very impressed and humbled by the fact that this morning we're gathering here in this building where Reverend Dr. Dalton Glebe began his ministry. I can't believe that here we are, the way history sort of connects itself. 10 years ago, Reverend Dr. Christine Lund had a vision. She wanted to ensure that the legacy of Dr. Glebe remained. That was around education, training, building supports within the community, and accessibility. So she began the Dalton Glebe Counseling Center with those values, that mission, that vision, and 10 years later, here we are. It's mind-boggling to consider that when we began, within the first 2 years, we did like 2,000 sessions, and we're tracking to do about 11,000, so that's how much we have grown. Unfortunately, we are in the business that we like to work ourselves out of business, but that's not going to happen. We are glad that we're there for the community. Beside the statistics that tells us how many people come, why they come, and all of those sorts of things, we see about anywhere from 25 to 60, we have about 25 to 60 sessions a day. And out of those numbers, I can guarantee you, and all my office team, Elma and everybody else would say that people on a regular basis, whether it's 2 or 3 of them, will at least say how grateful they are that they have found a place that could provide responsive services to them. And we are glad that we're able to do that. And we stand on the shoulders of both Reverend Dr. Dalton Glebe and Reverend Dr. Christine Lund, and so for that, we're very grateful that we were able to do that work and serve the community in a way that, pardon me, that meets their needs. Without all of you, we wouldn't be able to do that either. The fact that the community provides support for us is indeed it's inspiring, and it helps us to continue to do what we do because it means that other people believe in the work that we do as well. So thank you all for being here. I know it's really early, but you've taken the time to be here, so thank you very much. I wanted to also say most of you already know this building, but the bathrooms are right. If you make a right and you make a quick left, there's the bathrooms. And I will ask Reverend Dr. Christine Lund to do our land acknowledgement before I introduce our panel, and we let the morning go.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here. It's wonderful to see you all. As we begin this morning, it's very important for us to remember our history and the land on which we reside, which is the traditional territories of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Neutral people. We have much to learn from the Indigenous peoples of this land about hospitality, welcoming, community, neighborliness, and our commitment at Luther and at the Glebe Center is to continue to learn and grow in our understanding of the wisdom that the Indigenous peoples have so that we can create more just and right relationships. So enjoy our program this morning.
Thank you, Christine. I will introduce our panel. I will do all 3 of our panel because I do not want to interfere with the progression of the program. So please bear with me, and I will read because I do not want to make an error. Firstly, I'll introduce Dr. Jennifer Renier. She is a PhD professor at the University of Guelph. She is an educational developer in the Office of Teaching and Learning at the University of Guelph. Jennifer brings expertise in quantitative, that's survey-based, and qualitative social science research to the scholarship of teaching and learning. In this role, Jennifer enjoys collaborating with faculty, staff, and graduate students on learning outcomes assessment, curriculum mapping, and teaching and learning research. Jennifer holds a PhD in applied social psychology from the University of Guelph. Her dissertation research investigated the experience of awe and its psychological benefits. Jennifer's interest in emotion research stems from a lifetime of strong emotional reactions to literature, music, and human goodness, and a desire to understand the experience of feeling moved. Our next panel member, Gerard Yan, whom most of you know, he is an intercultural contemplative musician, teacher, and scholar. A native of the Sierra Nevada foothills of Northern California, he is a descendant of San Francisco and Jamaican Chinese with a background rooted in various musical traditions, discovered and pursued, alongside his formal training and professional work as a classical conductor. These include the Zen Buddhist shakuhachi, Native American flute, Asian overtone singing, didgeridoo, West African kora, and drumming. His scholarly interest focuses on intersections of music, spirituality, and social justice through the practice such as intercultural improvisation, restorative, contemplative musical forms, and performative ecoacoustics. At the juncture of emergence from global pandemic, he seeks to reawaken awareness of relationships between humans, the natural world, and technology by combining scientific and musical modalities. Currently, Gerard is assistant professor at Wilfrid Laurier in Waterloo. Dr. Yan is in demand as a clinician and workshop leader. During the pandemic, he hosted Authentic Voice podcast and Martin Luther University's Contemplative Music Pause. He is currently producing the Listeners podcast, working on a new course titled Listening, Theories and Practice. He teaches community music, contemplative arts, and social justice courses at both the undergraduate and graduate levels. He's the founder of Conrad Gable University's East-West Dark Horse Ensemble, Wilfrid Laurier's Confluence Ensemble. Dr. Yan performs and records with the Earth Ether Ensemble under the leadership of James Harley. He appears on Room 217 World Music Series for the Music Cares and various music apps, including Plant Choir by Sonification app. Dr. Yan serves as a musical advisor for Canada's Plant Choir and board president of the Community Music School of Waterloo Region. Thank you, Gerard. And then our third speaker is Darren Thomas. Dr. Darren Thomas is a member of the Seneca Nation and is Bear Clan and resides at the Grand River territory of the Haudenosaunee. Darren is an associate professor in the Indigenous Studies program and the associate vice president of Indigenous Initiatives at Wilfrid Laurier University. As a senior leader of Indigenous initiatives at Laurier, he manages a team of staff that has the responsibility to support Indigenous students, staff, and faculty to reach their highest potential while developing a strategic vision and implementation for indigenization, decolonization, and reconciliation. Darren's personal research interests are Indigenous thought and philosophy, Indigenous community development, strengthening and improving Indigenous health and well-being, Indigenous law, and Indigenous rights and resource governance. Thank you, Darren. I give you Jennifer Renier.
Thank you, Nita, and good morning, everyone. So today I'm going to be taking on the task of talking about the scientific study of awe and some of the benefits of experiencing this unique emotion. I'm just going to wait for a moment to bring up my slides here. So picture this. You're standing with a friend on the edge of a lake, looking up at a sky filled with stars. Your friend mentions to you that there are more stars in the sky than grains of sand on the earth. Or picture this. You're watching the 800-meter heats at the Tokyo Olympics. As the runners approach their final turn, the athlete from the US trips, taking down the athlete from Botswana with him. They're now so far out of contention that they won't make the finals. But after a moment, you see the runners high five, help each other up, and cross the finish line together. Now picture this. You're driving home through a rural area when the sky starts to darken. You pull over and notice the thunderheads gathering. A flash of lightning hits the ground just 100 feet in front of you, followed quickly by a huge clap of thunder. In these situations, you might experience physical reactions like goosebumps, a lump in your throat, or even tears forming in your eyes. You might feel emotions like wonder and amazement, or even fear and uncertainty. Your thinking might also change in specific and important ways. You might feel small or feel like you're part of a larger whole. In each of these situations, you might be feeling awe. Social scientists define awe as the emotion we experience when we perceive something vast and difficult to understand. Although many different situations can elicit awe, researchers have found that most elicitors of awe tend to share those two similar characteristics, vastness and difficulty in understanding. So I'm going to talk about both of those pieces separately. Vast experiences can be physically large, or they can be large in other ways, like length of time, importance, or meaningfulness. For example, you might feel awe when holding your newborn baby. Obviously, the baby is physically small, but thinking about their life ahead of them or contemplating the meaning of a new person in the world evokes vastness. The second important aspect of awe is related to our ability to understand the experience. When we experience a new phenomenon, our brains can either fit that new information into our existing understanding of how the world works, or if the information is so new and different, we have to accommodate it. Cognitive accommodation is the process of creating new mental frameworks to understand previously incomprehensible information. So we experience awe when we encounter something that doesn't fit into how we usually think about the world. This aspect of awe is important because it shows how experiencing awe changes the way we think in meaningful ways. Awe feels like a rare and fleeting emotion. It might be very personal, or you might have trouble kind of explaining it. So when I told my friends and family members that I was researching awe for my dissertation, first people thought I meant awe cute, or I don't know, there was a lot of some confusion. I had to say AWE. But I was sometimes met with skepticism that this topic was something that could be studied scientifically. But scientists have derived many ways to examine this powerful human experience. These ways include measuring awe using self-report questionnaires. So this is a really simple method where you just ask participants how often they experience awe in their daily lives. There are validated self-report questionnaires to measure emotions like awe. The dispositional positive emotion scale for awe includes questions like, I often feel awe, and I have many opportunities to see the beauty in nature. This scale gives researchers data about how often people tend to experience awe in their daily lives. Researchers also try to manipulate awe or cause participants to experience it in the lab. The easiest way that they do this is to ask participants to think about a time when they encountered something vast and difficult to understand, or sometimes they'll just say, think about a time you felt awe, and to write about it for a few minutes. These simple instructions reliably cause participants to re-experience awe in the lab. Another way to elicit awe in the lab is by showing participants awe-inducing images or videos. For my research, participants who were randomly assigned to the awe condition watched 5 minutes from the nature documentary Planet Earth. I had edited it to remove the voiceover, and I added stirring music, and I picked very kind of vast and grand pieces from that documentary. Researchers also bring participants to awe-inducing places. So one cool study, they had participants stand underneath a T-Rex skeleton and stare up at it for 1 minute. And then in the control condition, they brought them to the same room, but just had them stare up at the wall for a minute. So just turning directions. A lot of this research comes out of California, so they'll go to the redwood groves and sort of stare up at the 200-year-old trees or that kind of thing. So they try to elicit awe in the lab, but also in the real world. So once researchers have elicited awe in their experimental conditioned participants, they then measure another variable or another behavior in their participants. So things like, how much do they donate to charity when given an opportunity? Or how much of a sense of connection do they feel with other people? Or how curious do they feel? So a final way that social scientists investigate awe is by analyzing written accounts or by interviewing people about times they felt this emotion. So I also did an interview study with community participants where I just asked them about times in their lives when they had felt awe. So this is qualitative research, which focuses on rich analyses of words, and it helps add depth to the lab and survey-based research, which are mostly quantifying the experience. So, you're rating your experience of awe on a scale of 1 to 7. So at this point, there we go. At this point, I want to pause to acknowledge that psychologists who study awe often have certain beliefs about the world based on the scientific method. Social psychology typically assumes that by objective experimentation, psychologists will get to the capital T truth of a phenomenon. Complex emotional experiences, however, are difficult to reduce to numbers on a scale. And I want to acknowledge that this capital T truth, objective Western science way of studying emotions is just one way. Others have thought about and written about awe, including theologians, philosophers, authors, for hundreds and thousands of years. So my job today is to represent the scientific perspective, but it's by no means the best or only way to understand this emotion. Another issue with Western science is that it's been criticized for relying on weird samples. So weird here is an acronym that stands for white, educated, coming from industrialized, rich, and democratic countries. So many research samples consist of students taking first-year psychology courses, and this demographic is obviously not representative of the whole world population. But yet, psychologists try to generalize to the whole population. Over the past 10 years or so, though, researchers have been more aware of this issue, and they've made a conscious effort to collaborate with researchers from other countries, from other disciplines, and to sample participants beyond the first-year psychology pool. But that's just my sort of science caveat here. Okay, so I've talked about what awe is and how psychologists study it. Now I'm going to describe the research that shows some of the benefits of experiencing awe. So when you think back to the two aspects of awe-inducing experiences, vastness and difficulty in understanding, you might be able to predict some of the benefits of experiencing awe. So first, we know we feel awe when we encounter something larger than life. Whether that's an object, a view, a piece of art, an inspiring person. So not surprisingly, one of the most consistent findings in the literature on awe is the feeling of a small self. So experiencing awe leads people to feel physically smaller, to have a decreased focus on their self, and to feel like part of a larger whole. This feeling of being small is associated with several other positive effects. When people feel awe, they feel more humble, they act in ways to help others, they are more generous, and they engage in more ethical decision-making. Not surprisingly, researchers have also found that experiencing awe increases one's sense of connection with others. So now let's think about the other aspect of awe-inducing experiences. They're difficult to understand. They don't fit into our existing cognitive frameworks, and therefore we have to accommodate them or think in a new way. So there's research that shows that feeling awe opens our minds to new ways of thinking and makes us more curious about the world around us. In my research, I looked at the effects of experiencing awe when thinking about a small personal problem. So participants in my study were asked to write about a small problem they were experiencing in their life at the time, like a conflict with a roommate or a difficult class assignment. Then they were randomly assigned to either watch a video that induced awe, so that was that nature documentary with footage of waterfalls, mountains, immense trees, and a sandstorm so large that it was visible from space. Or a video that did not elicit strong emotions, which was also a nature video, but it was a pretty boring close-up of like a very small stream in the winter. Like it was lovely and calming, but not awe-inducing. Then participants were asked to rate how much they were reflecting or ruminating, which are two types of self-focus. One is positive, reflection, and one is negative, rumination or worry. They also rated how distressed they felt about their problem, and then I asked them to write out a solution to their problem. Participants who had watched the awe-inducing video were more reflective and felt less distressed about their problem compared to participants who watched the neutral video. So experiencing awe appeared to help participants put their problem into perspective. I also looked at the written problem solutions for participants in the two conditions. People in the awe condition wrote significantly more words, so longer solutions, than participants in the control condition. So these results suggested that experiencing awe helped these participants reflect on their problem and think about them in a new way, or think about some new solutions. So overall, there's some strong evidence for the psychological and cognitive benefits of experiencing awe. So I've talked about the benefits of experiencing awe, but how can we cultivate it in our daily lives? We need to step outside our comfort zone. So remember that we feel awe when we see something that's vast and inexplicable. So I think we do need to step outside our comfort zones a little bit, whether that's physically, mentally, spiritually, and seek out new experiences to feel awe. Dakar Keltner, a social psychologist at the University of California at Berkeley, and the world's preeminent awe researcher, and basically like an awe rock star. I wish I could have done my dissertation work with him. Would have involved moving to California, but that would have been cool. Has identified what he calls the 8 wonders of life. He and a colleague identified 8 types of experiences that showed up the most frequently in the written stories of over 2,600 individuals worldwide from 26 countries who were asked to write about a time they experienced awe. So I'm going to go through very briefly what these 8 types of wonders of life are. According to Keltner, awe is most likely to occur when we encounter the following 8 types of experiences. The first one is observing moral beauty. So I have Terry Fox on here. This was actually the most common elicitor of awe worldwide, witnessing people behaving selflessly with courage or displaying a talent. Keltner's work shows that witnessing moral beauty is an everyday way to experience awe that's available to us all. The second type of awe elicitor is called collective effervescence. I love that term. Basically, connecting with others at group experiences like weddings, ceremonies, concerts, especially when we move, cheer, sing in synchronicity with others in crowds, is a common awe elicitor. So I think those people who spent thousands of dollars on Taylor Swift tickets, like I showed, likely got a large dose of awe for their money. Get into nature. So I've got a beautiful view of an Ontario hike. So there's lots of emerging research on the healing powers of spending time in nature. I think that many of these effects can be traced back to the feelings of awe that we experience in nature. So get outside when you can, find a vast overlook, or simply stand under a tree and stare up. If you can't physically get into nature, research shows that things like a nature documentary can lead you to experience similar effects. Listen to or create music. I'm not going to talk too much about music today because we have Gerard here as an expert to do that. But listening to or creating music is a common awe elicitor, and it doesn't matter kind of what type of music. Things like crescendos in the music have been found to elicit awe, so certain musical features, but it doesn't have to be a certain type of music. Explore art and architecture. So I have a photo of Westminster Abbey, which was built over 300 years ago and is still one of the highest domes in the world. So art and architecture are common elicitors of awe, especially when they involve large spaces. The final three wonders of life that I've shown here are all kind of related to contemplation, deep thinking. So many people throughout history and across cultures have reported experiencing awe when they engage with religion or spirituality. Similarly, contemplating life and death and also having epiphanies can both elicit awe. These wonders can be experienced anywhere. They don't necessarily require you to travel somewhere exotic or witness a rare occurrence. Awe can occur just through the contemplation of complexities of life. Canadian astronaut Chris Hadfield described the experience of viewing Earth from the International Space Station in his excellent book, An Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth. He writes, "The shimmering, dancing show of the northern and southern lights, the gorgeous blues of the shallow reefs fanning out around the Bahamas, the huge, angry froth stirred up by the focused eye of the hurricane. Seeing the whole world shifts your perspective radically. It's not only awe-inspiring, but profoundly humbling. Certainly it drove home to me how nearsighted it would be to place too much importance on my own 53-odd years on the planet." I love this quotation because it shows how experiencing awe causes the feeling of a small self and a shift in perspective. We don't need to travel to space to experience these benefits. We just need to remember to seek out vast and novel situations that may elicit this powerful emotion. Thank you.
That was wonderful. Oh, good, Bill. Thank you. Bill, does this go down to my neck like that? And then I clip it?
It should go over your head.
Okay.
You sound good.
Well, so do you. Wait. And do you have control of the slides or do I?
No, I'm going to put them up for you.
Okay. I don't have control. So the first slide up here is the title of my talk today. So it's called Ears Open Wide, Listening with Awe. And Jennifer, thank you for that wonderful introduction. I'd like to say good morning and welcome and thank Nita and the Glebe Center for having me here today. I thought I was just going to write some music and then not get up or have breakfast or something, like I do sometimes. And then it's been sort of a panic. It's like I have to think at this time in the morning. So I'm going to say good morning again and welcome. So hopefully I'll be able to tap into this thing called awe. Let me give you some background. Locally, I'm a professor and a music person at the Faculty of Music, where I teach in community music. And this year I have this very cool position where I'm split half between a Luther and a Faculty of Music, which means I have twice the faculty meetings. What do you think about awe in faculty meetings? That's definitely bigger than myself, and I do not understand at all. All right, so the next slide is a little bit about me, and this is important given what Jennifer has said. So as I said, my name is Gerard Yun. And yeah, it's after the French Saint Gerard, and Yun is not my real last name. It's my grandfather's first name. Our real last name is Fong. So they messed it up in immigration, and we just kept it. So we just like live the mistake, lean in. So can you go to the next slide, or do I have click control, or do I have click control? It's one of those clapper things, right? Okay. Did you just do a lap? Did you just do a lap? Did you?
I did a lot.
Give me 16. Okay. I hold a Doctor of Musical Arts. Like, what is that? But what you may not know about me, like most of my colleagues probably don't know about this about me. My path was really different as a young person. So I came out wanting to be a field biologist, and I was a Park Service interpreter in the California State Park Service. I was a ranger for about 5 years in the California Gold Country and in the Redwoods. That is at Buteno State Park, where I was a ranger for 2 years in Big Basin. And plus, in the time in between, I was a naturalist and a science teacher in grade 5, 6. They don't want to learn. They just want to run around and say, what are those newts doing? Well, they're just clinging to one another. And then, that's so cool. Can we run up the mountain? Yeah, okay. So it was awesome. So I was a science teacher with an outdoor laboratory and outdoor classroom in the Redwoods. And you're like, what are you doing in Ontario? I was also earlier a backcountry skiing guide, a mountaineering guide, and ski instructor. So I spent all of that time outside. And nobody told, and I really loved music, but nobody told me that you do all your music inside. Like, what was that? And so I would now study at the confluence of soundscape ecology, how the world fits together and from what we hear, and understanding it that way, and community music. Currently, there's really nobody researching community music in this way. And I will also say that nobody is researching community music from a spiritual care point of view either, which is really fascinating for any work at the Glebe. And the Glebe is just a fascinating place. So, okay. Please work. Okay, so let's listen. Lindsay, why did it do this for you? And then... For the last few years, I've been messing around, I would say, really messing around and researching and building things. A little unit, I built that. And in order to sense the biofields of living things, the easiest thing, because they don't move and don't argue, are plants. And yes, trying to hook up a teenager is bad. But you get a different result. Now, what you're hearing note-wise is something that, if I put in a scale or something, that's what it's doing. But the plant itself, its biofield is playing this music, right? It's doing the rhythm, it's doing the triggering, and as you can tell, it went to sleep while we were talking. But when we all came, and this was outside last night, right? All night. And then Alma brought it in, and then it woke up. It fell asleep a little bit ago, and then Lindsay brought it to life. Again, so it reacts with our biofields. We're connected, and we're going to do a little bit of that today. My work really is in listening. And I was really well trained in listening as a musician and as a naturalist. And but you know what I've discovered is that most of us are really crummy listeners. And so I've gone back, because if we're good listeners and trained listeners, shouldn't almost everything that we experience nowadays, the conflicts between ourselves, the conflicts globally, and I'm even thinking of faculty meetings with like listening, it's just more listening would be good. Trained listening would be good. Deep listening would be good. So that's my work. So, and it really comes from listening, yes, to plants and many other things. So we're gonna do a few things here. Let me turn this down just a bit. So it's very enthusiastic because of and the next slide. But is that where all lies? in this listening to little things. And I started inventing these and designing these little tiny quiet mics and sneaking under, like putting it under plants at night and listening to snails munch and listening to things I had no idea what they were. Like, what is that? What is that? And then you get down there and there's some ant walking on something. Only recently, scientists have learned that it's not only winged insects that use music, use sound to communicate, that in fact the non-winged ones are in our trees and on our bushes, and they're drumming to each other. And they pick out the wood that's the most resonant for their species to call their mates back and forth or to admonish their children or whatever they're doing. We really don't know. And most of the time, we have no idea what bug it is. So I thought, this is just great. And I'm gonna do the real sound thing. Enough of this biological energy nonsense. And so, and so listen to this. Here we go. Oh my gosh. I don't know if that's coming through the amp yet. Hang on. Can you hear that at all? It's really subtle. I'll try to get it through. Yeah, it will only come, there's always something with tech, right? Turn the speakers around. So that gurgling sound you hear is the water being pumped up the inside of a tree. Yeah, it's the inside of a tree. Now, do you have anything I can get sound through with this? Oh, you want to get, oh, okay. You are so old school. That really works, doesn't it? I know. Just, yeah.
Where's it coming?
These are the speakers right there. Yeah. So go. So good. So I invented and designed these little piezo mics, which are really inexpensive, and we used to use them. The technology is super old. They were called crystal mics, and from working with crystal mics, I found out that any crystalline. No, stay there. It's my background noise.
It's my stomach.
Phil. I mean, and so it is the. See, you got me. Okay.
We know each other.
Yes.
We do.
You do? Isn't that great? From the inside of the tree, I started to listen. First, I started to listen for things. Oh, I want to hear the water. Oh, I want to hear the cracks and the pops. There's not many cracks and pops in this. A lot of trees have them. And then later on, I found out through reading the science that that's actually a distress signal. It's air. It's the distress that they're dried out. So a lot of the trees in California were making tons of cracks and pops, right? And then ours this summer was very, very wet. And so after every rain, I could run out, and I have stethoscopes. I'm just like, oh, wow, that's so good. And my neighbors are like, there he is, again. And then he's hooking up, and now it's raining. And so I cable them up, and then I go back into my house and listen, and they're like, he's there. And and then, of course, I've got to make music with him, but that's the next thing. So I'm listening for something. Then after a while, I give up that, and I just listen to two things. Like, what is that? There's other stuff in here. Branches, wind. Imagine that you have a 30, 60 foot tall resonator guitar, and that somebody's blowing in the top. And it's like the slightest wind brings out the biggest bass notes, and then that activated the musician in me, and I'm like, wow, you are so cool. You know, what's cool? Everybody thinks bass players are cool. Whatever. Anyway, they are cool. So, is it the drummer or the bass player that you date? I don't know. So, then after another hour or so of that, what that develops into is almost a form of meditation, where you were listening with. So you go from listening for something, listening to something, and listening with. So you begin to hear what the tree hears. Now, this is an amazing thing because scientists are split 50-50. Trees don't hear, they don't have ears. But before we had ears, we all listened through our skeletons and through our bodies. If you ask a dancer, you're like, oh, do you hear that music? I just listened with my body. And yeah, you're a great dancer. They do. We do. Fish listen with their whole bodies, right? They have modern ones have lateral lines. But the early ones could also sense bioelectricity. Bioelectricity is really cool, even though I just like poo-pooed it for a while. But this just listening is amazing. And Bill, you are remarkable. And you're just gonna have to stay here because I had to invent waterproof mics, right? Because it's raining. So I'm wrapping them in tape and they're fizzing out. And then I had to start dipping them in liquid rubber. And I had to get the special liquid rubber, and so the home hardware people were like, we need to order that again. And yeah. All right, so I need to turn off this. And so, of course, now I have waterproof mics. I don't know what you're thinking, but I had to dump them in the river. Okay. This is underwater. I had no idea what there's crazy clicks going on and stuff. I had no idea what those were. Let me do it again. Oh, you can hear them, kind of. Yep. Yeah. Those are crayfish going crazy. Now, the crayfish at night stop doing that. And I don't have a recording of this, so I have to do it for you vocally. But I guess I will tell you about nighttime. At nighttime, the crayfish stop, and the fish start making noise. I have no idea which fish are making this noise in the Conestoga River or in Laurel Creek. And I brought my daughter to keep me company. I'm like, you want to go listen to fish? Dad, it's night. And I thought, yeah, it's not going to work. So I waited until the next day, and I said, hey, do you want to see the owl? Yeah, let's go see the owl. They haven't thought the owl is out hunting. It's night. Dad, that's good. So they're an IB student, but they don't always, yeah. So anyway, so we're like, Dad, there's no owl. Oh, God, let's go down and listen to the fish. What? So put the headphones on and all that, and it kind of sounds like this. And I couldn't catch it on digital. So I'm still working on that. So I've got to figure out which fish is mooing. Underwater, there's like this cowfish that's going on. So absolutely, totally fascinated. All right, you're all done.
Thank you.
Could we give Bill a hand, please? Yay, Bill! Yay! All right, so we've done the crayfish. I want to tell you, this next slide is just listening again. I had to listen again because I became ill. And I was diagnosed with anxiety disorder and just could not work. And so the mental illness thing and neurodiversity thing is part of my life too, with my children as well. And it was this kind of work that really brought me back. Being in nature, finding awe in the smallest things. I mean, snail hunting, what a ridiculous thing for a professor to do. And I had to wear my little red lights because I used to be a naturalist and I take kids on night hikes. You know, mammals can't see red, so I'll use the red light. So my poor neighbors, like I'm hauling around their yards with a red light and these funny little mics. And just in case somebody's going to come and hit me, I have the safety light that's blinking. So I know, I look like on a grounded Zeppelin or something at night. Just really weird. It left me totally wiped out. And I've always had music going on in the back of my mind. I thought this was normal for everybody. But for 2 months, that music completely left me. And that was a real panic. And it was this learning to listen in this way again, this close listening, that really brought me back. And my goal was a memory. And this is going to be this winter. Mike, you're going to help me with this. Once when I was a ski instructor and had to hole up for a little bit in the snow by a tree, on a particularly wonderful day. I was by myself. And we get to study snow physics as part of our work. And I just listened. And at that point, I could hear all of the different sounds that snow falling on snow. I've never heard anyone capture it and that's my goal. That's going to be my listening this winter. Awe. unusual, I think. You know, it awe is what happens on the inside. And so, yes, it could be the Redwoods. Yes, it could be the Grand Canyon. My first job posting for university was in southern Utah, right by Zion National Park. And so you just kind of go outside and go, yeah, you know, I know, right? I know. And then it was the Pacific. Yeah, you're running around. It's like, oh yeah, it's an elephant seal. Yeah. And then, and then it's like some whale comes up. Yeah. And then you're in Ontario and like waiting for it. It's like, and they call that a lake over there. I'm like, what is that? Yeah, so oh my goodness, I hear things. So we're gonna try something. What I really want to listen for in this thing I'm calling the soundless sound is the sound as a community musician of us connected, right? We are inevitably connected. That's what people say to us. Scientists are always saying, yes, we're connected. We're like, by what? Why can't we hear it? You know, musicians always need proof, right? And so let's try it, shall we? I need a few volunteers to come up. And I would say maybe two. Wait, what? Yeah, and do you guys want to volunteer or you just want to hang? Okay, you're going to hang. All right, I think I need more than one because this could connect all of us, you know, potentially. Would you, okay, come over here, over by the plant. You're scared of the plant now because you're afraid that it'll just start yelling. Yeah, there was right by the plant. One of my friends said, okay, I guess I could simulate it. Do I have one more minute? Yes. Okay. I guess we'll have to demonstrate maybe this another time, I don't know, but we're going to try it. Would you hold on to that, please? Would you guys join hands? So what this does is it turns the current coming between us into music. Now I can join everyone in this room together, and you'll see that the current that flows through it can be joined and played into music. This little device. You can't get them right now because of the war, right? It comes out of Estonia, but we can get some of them. And there's a whole bunch of things like that. Where is all this going? Right? Where is all this going? There's ways we can experience connection. It's really funny too if you tap someone's head, but if you you can experience connection, you can experience flow, you can experience different modalities. This is what brings me the awe. These things that are in color, the flowers here, they too produce music. We can sonify almost anything. And by doing that, my hope is that people that are trapped in their headphones, trapped on their screens, that's where we can find them and bring them back to community, bring them back to nature, and do something about all this mental instability and ill health. But before all of that, the first part is just learning to listen again. Thank you. Thank you.
Scanis Whale. Thanks, Gerard. And I didn't know what I was going to talk about until just a moment ago. I'm probably an organizer's worst nightmare because I never plan. And which was really rare for me to meet so many times to plan for this day. And I don't plan. So in my mind from our first visit in the summertime, I think I've went through so many different versions of what I was going to kind of share with you folks today. And then when my alarm went off at 5:30, I was thinking, why did I decide to do this? So my English name is Darren Thomas. My real name is Yon Jase. I'm Onondaga or Seneca Nation, Bear Clan, Nyagwait. I grew up most of my life at Grand River Territory, And I'm really privileged because I grew up in a traditional family. I grew up 4 generations removed from Indian residential school. So I grew up hearing the language. I grew up going to ceremony. I grew up never questioning my identity and who I was. And when it kind of bounced around this idea of awe in my head, and you know, Gerard, your presentation there right on the end on connection between us all is what really kind of aligns with what I want to share with you today. And I think one of the biggest things for me growing up that inspired awe in me and my teachings is that as human beings, we're the only life force in all of creation that doesn't know why we're here. If you think about all the plants, all the animals, all the trees, everything else has right in its DNA, right in its cellular memory, what it's supposed to do, and its role, duty, and responsibility in creation. But as humans, we don't have that. So we're always left to ponder, why are we here? What's our purpose? What's our role, and duty, and responsibility in creation? And for my people and many indigenous nations around the world, we would describe this as Ongwehowegeka, that we have original instructions. But they're based on understanding that because we don't know why we're here, what's our purpose, our role, duty, and responsibility, we have to remind one another what these things are. And the way in which we do that is by living in community, living in connection with creation, and understanding that we don't live our lives purely for ourselves, but we live it for all the generations to come, to make sure that they have the opportunity to enjoy love, peace, and creation. So again, every indigenous nation around the planet will have some sort of form of original instructions about what it means to be a good human being. And in troubled times that we're now upon again, where we see violence and trauma and massacre and death, that too creates awe for me in the fact that how can humanity perpetrate so much evil on one another? Because hate is a choice. And we know that because when we look at creation, we look at all the things that are part of this universe. That's based on love. You think that everything that we have has been provided for us to live a happy and full life. We never have to seek. That's why in our ceremonies, we never pray. We never ask for anything. Because in our teachings, it would be rude to ask when we already have everything we need to enjoy a full life. There's one time a year through our calendar works on 13 months, 13 moons. So when we have our new year, the only time we ever ask is that we ask that everything continues to fulfill its role, including us as humans. And that is to live in gratitude. And that is something in this modern world we lose so much of. Because how many of us, even though it was at 5:30 in the morning for me, give thanks for waking up? That very simple act of enjoying another day, to meet new friends. And I see my old friend I hadn't seen in years, and I think he snuck out on me before I could talk. But it was great to see him because I haven't seen him in a couple years. And we embrace so strongly because of the love that we have for one another. And that's what creation does. You think about all the medicines, all the trees, all the animals. Think about if you've ever had the love of a pet. That's awe-inspiring. The generosity of that kindness in the universe. It's all based on love. Gaya Shragoa, the great and everlasting love, is the root of our philosophy as Haudenosaunee people. And that our original instructions ask us every day that we're here to try to be as kind as we can, as loving as we can, as uplifting as we can, as compassionate as we can. Because one of the things is we do know life is hard. There are a lot of hardships. Many of us in this room may be still grieving losses of our own personal loved ones. Grief is one of the most powerful emotions we ever experience as a human being, because nothing else in this world makes us feel so completely full and so completely empty at the exact same moment. And when we struggle to try to find love, we just simply need to go out to the trees, to the water, to feel the breeze. We describe that breeze as Genyogodage. That's our four uncles, the four directions. And they lift us if we're down. They lift us and stand us upright. Those four directions. If you're ever in need of just feeling the gentleness and love of creation, go for a walk and feel that breeze and imagine the caressing and kindness of that creation through your hair, across your cheek. Just like your mommy used to stroke you, or your loved ones, your grandma, your aunties, your uncles. Just imagine that. So if they're gone from this physical world, no, they're still with you. The loved ones and your ancestors, just part of this ongoing creation. We're never alone. And we should never feel alone. And that's our first teacher, creation. This is why, again, when I say hate is a choice, but it's not a natural choice. The natural choice for us as humans is love. And we need to start fulfilling that every day. And to know and understand the moment we wake up every day, we can choose love, or we can choose to perpetrate anger and hatred. This is a choice. And it starts the first moment your eyes open. You say, thank you, God, Jesus, Buddha, Allah, the Big Bang, whatever you believe in, that created this universe. You give thanks for that you have one more day. And see, this is about the constant evolution as a human being, and why it's about always growing. Because tomorrow you can be more loving. Tomorrow you can be more caring. Tomorrow you can be more kind. It's about trying to make this world the best that you can, each and every day that you're blessed with. So, I'll finish there. Donato.
It feels anticlimactic for me to simply say thank you. To put this panel together, it was an awesome experience. I read Daniel Kalkner's book, and I thought, whoa, I found out about Jennifer, that this professor doing research at University of Guelph in Awe. So I set about trying to find her. And it took me about 2.5 months because Jennifer changed her last name. And I couldn't find the professor that I was looking for. So it was with much persistence and email everybody at Guelph, pretty much it feels like, until I did find Jennifer. And I've known George for a long time, and Darren was introduced to me. The awesome part was how willing they all were to be here today. I'm fairly unknown to both Jennifer and Darren. The welcome with which they embraced the idea to come at 7 o'clock in the morning and talk about this, to be here and to share their knowledge. Gerard is always very willing to go whichever direction, weird or wonderful or not, meaning 7 o'clock in the morning, with us. He's always been a very big supporter for the Glebe, but both Darren and Jennifer, thank you, Gerard, thank you for your willingness to support us, to help us learn and grow so that we can live into our mission of being in community and learning and growing and being there for others. I can't say thank you. We would not have been able to do this, though, without the support of Elma. Elma is my trustee. Oh my gosh, Elma, we have to do this yesterday, and she said, sure. So I don't know if that's a strength or a weakness, and that she never questioned. She said, sure. So together we are always fighting dragons against windmills. And the team at the Glebe, all of this happened without a hiccup in our direct client services. Everybody showed up for work, and everybody did everything else. So the client services was not in any way, I'd hope, not that I'm aware of, been interrupted in any way. So we just kept doing all of this on our side, beside our desk, and so I'm very, very grateful to the team that I work with. It makes me show up every day for work, even at 7 o'clock in the morning, because their commitment to what we do and how we do it is inspiring. It really is awesome. And so will help me say thank you to our guests. We have a little gift to say thank you. And again, I want to thank everybody for being here. And I think I would strongly encourage that you take a look at our weekly auction items that we have out there. And also to see what the people online or in person, if you have any questions for our esteemed guests today. So, are you managing the online, and I can do in person?
We have one online question.
Okay.
Yes, we have one online question directed to Jennifer. Basically, a quick recap of the 8. She caught the 6 points of wonder. We've put it into the chat for our online audience, but if you can just review that, please, give us a summary of the 8.
I kind of lumped the last 3 together, so that might be where you missed one. But let me see if I can do it off the top of my head. So moral beauty, I think was the first one. So sort of Terry Fox, witnessing goodness in others. Oh, thank you, Terry. Collective effervescence was the second. So sort of moving, dancing, singing in community. Nature, music, art and architecture. And then there was religion and spirituality, contemplating life and death. So that one I definitely sort of glossed over quickly. And then epiphanies. So really just that sudden understanding of something that you previously hadn't thought of or hadn't understood before can really cause awe. I think that was all 8, I think. Thanks.
Did we have any questions from the people present in person?
Well, I just want to say thank you for your Thank you for your presentations. They were all somewhat different and all very compelling in a different kind of way, so I was very grateful for that. I know, Darren, you didn't say you planned, but you obviously have thought about this very deeply, so I'm grateful for that. I guess I wouldn't mind hearing your comments about what is the state of awe in our society today? I mean, the prevalence of awe. And to what extent is, my suspicion is it's lacking in some places or it's absent for a lot of people. And to the extent that it is, to what extent that's a reflection of our collective mental health?
Yes, there is some research on children and awe, and they talk about, toddlers are just constantly in awe, right? Like everything they see, a bug or a blade of grass or, anything they can be. If you're trying to go on a walk around the block with your toddler, you're just like, oh my goodness, please, we have to move, or we've been stuck at this pebble for 10 minutes. But the research is sort of showing that children are losing that a little bit with less time in nature, I think, and more screens. And so that's a little concerning. And then I was glad Darren brought up the idea of negative awe, because I kind of focused today on the positive side, so the feeling of admiration and wonder and amazement. But definitely awe can be experienced when you witness negative. So instead of moral goodness, sort of the exact opposite, like atrocities and natural disasters and things like that. So I worry that maybe there's been a bit of a shift to the negative awe lately.
I think one of the challenges that I see shifting for many people is because we all walk around with computers now. And we don't have to experience awe when we can Google something, right? And I love comedy, and there's a whole bit from Mark Maron that talks about, remember when you would just experience something, would have to wonder the whole day, like, where's Tom Petty born? And then you just kind of wander around all day thinking about, boy, I'm really a good fan of Tom Petty and Refugee and one of his top hits and everything. But till you get somewhere and discover, right? But now you get an instantly, you pull out your phone and Google, right? Florida, by the way, in case you're wondering, right? But I mean, this is the thing, that we expect to be treated the way Google treats us as well. So we're not very patient with one another as well when we don't get our way. Right now, again, I think we've seen a huge shift negatively because I don't think we don't take the time to really pause and think about what we've all just been through. A collective mental health crisis with COVID, right? And again, depending on what your time was like during that experience, for some it was incredibly isolating. For me, I was lucky because all 3 of my adult children moved home. They're in their early 20s, and I mean, we had to relearn how to live with one another. But it was great to have that additional time with them when you usually think, okay, they're gone now, they've fled the last nest. But here we got to grow with them and watch them emerge as young men and women. And that was a blessing. For us, COVID was a blessing, but I also had the ability to still earn my career, to go online, to teach online, which sucked, by the way, but I still earned a paycheck. For a lot of folks, they lost their jobs. Many people lost their homes, right? So we have to look at the impact of that collective mental health crisis. And one of the biggest challenges that we face when we start coming back to working in person was how to be decent with one another again. How to be kind with one another again. And I think this is, again, when we're exposed to long-term uncertainty, that's what creates stress and anxiety, right? Because again, we were just talking at breakfast, wave after wave. Are we coming back? No, there's another wave. Are we coming back? No, there's another wave. But in the early days of COVID, it was so unsettling because we had no idea what was coming, that people were passing away, no treatment plans, no vaccine. But to think what that collective mental health crisis has done to us, and we don't acknowledge it, because that's post-traumatic stress, what we're dealing with, right? And so we need to cut each other a break and relearn how to be kind and how to be gentle with one another. And like I said, for some folks, COVID was absolute worst experience for me. I know, very privileged to be able to come through that with safety and security, right? But this is, again, where we're losing that aspect of awe in each other is because of technology, right?
I'll be super brief, David, but it's where I have noticed the biggest issue about that has been in the classroom, and that there is this propensity to be on the screen, and even when my students are not on their screens, they look like they are on their screens. So their minds are, I would say, entrained to this sort of thing, and the instantaneousness of being, just tell me and I'll tell you, and then that's our interaction. The other interaction that they have socially online, this is my children as well, is they don't have to interact or negotiate friendship. Instead, it's like or dislike, approve or disapprove, and they'll even say it at dinner, well, I approve of that. And I'm like, not telling you to clean the kitchen to approve. Like, you need to just clean it. I don't know how. That's a thumbs down. And like, okay, well, so it's a little like that, right? The parlance and the way of thought. And remember that we shape technology. The technologies I've shown you are really simple, and we're talking about the simplest circuitry. We have a weird relationship with technology. Just ask the AI. What's my relationship to you? I'm an AI. I cannot have emotions. So I ask it everything just to give it a test, And we can change that because it's us who make this community. It's us who make the institutions that I constantly complain about, right? But it is us, which means we have the capacity somewhere in us to change it. And I think what Jennifer is getting at and Darren is getting at is something that's quite ordinary. I think awe is pretty ordinary. It just shakes us out a little bit. And the ordinary part I'm talking about are the simple things about when you don't want to talk about it. The people who came out of Japanese internment, the people who came out of, the anti-Chinese laws in California. Nobody wants to talk about it.
But what they would do with you is knit or cook. My grandmother taught me to cook. Wouldn't speak any English and just taught me to cook. Or as our UN UNESCO guest the other night in refugee integration said, she said, be ordinary, embrace the ordinary, whether that's a sunset, whether that's just doing something with someone. Sing a song, tell a story, not the story, because that's dramatic, and be with. And that be with is the compassion piece. Yeah. So I think it's more ordinary than we think. It's not a hurdle. We don't have to take the phones from their hands and say, put it in this hat for a week. I've seen that at camps, and the kids just like shaking from, I have to text, texting their arm. So anyway, so yeah, we do have to we can make a better relationship. It is really in our power.
Thank you for that.